Okay, we're ready.
Awesome.
Do you like the intro about or should
Hi, I am Brett Everman. I turned 27 in February. I live in Plover, Wisconsin. Thank you for inviting me to speak. It makes me happy that you are interested in my story. I will talk about my transition to being an adult with disabilities. I am not an expert. These are my personal experiences. Hopefully this information will be interesting to you. By sharing, we can learn from each other. You may have noticed that I talk with a voice output computer called Adobe Dynavox. I am unable to communicate with vocal words, so I use a Dynavox voice output communication device. It is basically a Windows 10 computer with Communicator 5 software for the speech function. Please be patient as I find my messages. Let me introduce you to the rest of my family. My mom, Corrine, is helping me with the PowerPoint. My dad's name is Rob. He is regional manager at Terminal Trucking in Plover, Wisconsin. That is my older sister, Kaylee. She married Adam 7 years ago. They live in Ballstone Lake, New York. It is 3 hours north of New York City. My story starts when I was still a baby. I was born healthy and suffered a traumatic brain injury in a motor vehicle crash before my 2nd birthday. It is a miracle I survived. I had to learn to do things in a different way. I utilize a super cool Invacare powered wheelchair for mobility. I stayed in public school until age 21 and graduated from Stevens Point Area Senior High. After grade 12, the focus was on life skills training and job education training in the Spash Life Skills Center. After school, I had 3 goals. 1. Get a job. 2. Move out of my parents' house. And 3. Find a girlfriend. I am very proud to say that I have accomplished all 3 of these goals. I work for the University of Stevens Point. I moved into an apartment at age 21. I have a girlfriend named Annie Barnes. Having a job has always been important to me for many reasons. Reason 1, because I like to have money. Don't you? Reason 2, I am very social and like to be around people. Reason 3, it gets me out of the house. And finally, because it gives me a sense of accomplishment and self-worth. I feel very proud of myself. I registered on the state of Wisconsin Workforce Development website, and a counselor was assigned to me. They contracted with our local ODC, Opportunity Development Center, and ODC assigned a job coach to me. I did a few work trials, but they were not a good fit. I didn't want someone doing the work for me, and I wanted to be socially engaged. We had to find a way to safely transfer me from my wheelchair to bed. It was not. We came up with the idea of me being a tour guide at the University of Wisconsin Stevens Point Museum of Natural History. A page was created on my communication device for each window display or diorama. During a tour, I tell the story of what animal and biome the guests are looking at. I even helped create a virtual tour for people to watch online during the COVID-19 shutdown. I have been employed at the museum since June 2015. My boss says I am her most reliable employee, and people request me for their tour. How cool is that? "5 years ago, I accomplished a major goal. of mine by moving out of my parents' house into an apartment in Plover, Wisconsin. It was a major feat finding a wheelchair-accessible apartment that would work for me. During the process of searching, we found out that some rental companies designate specific apartment units for low-income occupants. They receive a tax break in return. I applied and qualified because I am not a student and my low income. It made the apartment affordable for me. Never in my wildest dreams did I see myself living alone in an apartment with 24-hour care. I am proud to be so independent. My apartment is a one-story townhouse with no stairs. It is accessible to my powered wheelchair.
And your mom did see you that was the scariest decision of my life, moving him out of our home into his own apartment and not being under my roof anymore. Very scary.
I can imagine.
Yeah. That's really-
When I first moved out, I was worried that no one would visit me, and my apartment has an attached single-stall garage for my wheelchair-accessible van. My parents are good to me, and they provided a vehicle for my transportation needs. I realize how lucky that makes me, as many people struggle with having affordable and available transportation. Of course, I don't drive, but my care providers are given permission to drive it and are trained to operate my wheelchair-accessible conversion van with side entry access. My chair rolls up the ramp into the back of the van. 4 tie-downs hold my chair in place. I always wear a lap shoulder belt for safety. Do you?
Oh, yeah. And tell me about your apartment. Okay.
By law, property management must give permission for modification to individuals with special needs. The wall-to-wall carpeting was removed, and vinyl plank flooring was glued to the concrete floor. There are no door thresholds from one room to another. My wheelchair can roll over door thresholds, but my standing frame for weight-bearing and shower chair have casters. A door threshold can be a dangerous hurdle for wobbly casters. Can any of you relate?
Yeah, we don't want any falls, do we, Brad? Tell me about your shower. Okay. Can you see that one?
Luckily, the bathroom is large and has room for a washer and dryer for my laundry. The bathtub was removed, and an accessible shower was added that allows my shower chair to roll in.
We like that, don't we?
We had to find a way to safely transfer me from my wheelchair to bed. It was not possible to reinforce the ceiling for a track lift in the ceiling like I had at my parents' house. Instead, a freestanding lift was purchased, and unlike a Hoyer, can be used by one care provider rather than needing 2 care providers. Have you seen this type of lift before? It is made by Prism Medical. We were very skeptical at first, but it has worked very well for me. I feel safe and secure during transfers. That is me just hanging out.
Yeah, we really like it because with the Hoyer, it takes 2 people to operate. And if you have to get the Hoyer under a bed, it can be really a challenge. And so this design worked much better. And as he said, it looked very skeptical when we saw it in the catalog. But we've had it 6 years. The only thing that has been an issue is that the strap actually wears out. It starts to fray over time. So every year we just have it on schedule that they send us a new one, and we send them the old one, and off we go again. So it's been working out really well. And I recommend them for in the schools too because.
Does that work okay with the ceiling height?
Yeah, it's I think it goes up about 8 or 9 feet, and it's very stable. And they have another company makes one like this that actually can fold up, and you can take it places with you. Fits like in a big duffel bag.
Wow.
The heavy part is the actual motor part that the sling is hooked onto.
Karina, who purchased that for you? Did you guys purchase it out of pocket, or was that something that you got funded somehow?
Inclusa helped us with those things for the apartment, the lift, and the shower install. So typically when you move into an apartment, I think Brett talks about this later, they have to by law you make modifications to an apartment. The condition is that when you leave, you have to return it to its previous state. Now, our property management has been very wonderful to work with. They consider everything we did to the apartment an upgrade, and if Brett so chooses to move out, they wouldn't require that we have to take it back to the normal state again, so we're happy about that.
Great.
And Brett's always sitting on his sling, so it's easy to hook him on and get going again.
Some of my friends, and I like going to Monster Truck Shop. I purposely kept furniture small so there is plenty of room for my wheelchair. My apartment is decorated with all my favorite things.
Oh, yeah.
Can you tell from the decorations that I am a NASCAR fan? My favorite driver was Dale Earnhardt Jr. until he retired in 2017. Alex Bowman drove Dale Jr.'s 88 car until Jimmy Johnson retired. Now my favorite driver, Alex Bowman, drives the 48 car. Do you have a favorite NASCAR driver? Property management, by law, had to allow me to make accommodations for my special needs. Typically, the renter is required to return the property to the original state upon moving out. However, my property manager considers the changes upgrades, and I will not have to convert it back to the original state if I ever choose to move out of the unit.
Thank goodness, right? And did your driver change numbers just so I had to buy more t-shirts?
Oh, yeah.
I think so.
That seems reasonable.
Yeah. Do you want to tell them about the care providers?
I am never alone at my apartment, as I have 24-hour care. There is always a care provider at my apartment, even when I sleep. When I first moved into the apartment in Clusa, my long-term care support team contracted with companies that provide care. The companies had a huge staff turnover, and my health suffered. October of 2019, the decision was made to become self-directed, and things have been going much better. I am the boss and make decisions about what I want to do and who works at my apartment. It can be a challenge to find good staff. Inclusa no longer has to pay a company with many layers of management. That allows us to pay staff at a slightly higher rate. The higher hourly rate draws a better quality employee. Plus, my mom is my co-guardian, house manager. She trains staff for my care. She works the morning shift, 7 to 3. Mom makes sure there is healthy food in my kitchen, does my morning cares, skin evaluation, and exercise. She also takes me to all my doctor appointments and meetings. At shift change, a different care provider comes in, and then the fun happens. I will
What?
talk about that later.
What happens when I leave? Are you ever lonely, Brett?
When I first moved out, I was worried that no one would visit me, and I would be lonely. A care provider was always with me, but it is not the same as friends. Shockingly, 85% of disabled adults between the age of 18 and 34 feel lonely. I am sure that number has escalated even more during the COVID pandemic. Many people with special needs have less than 30 minutes of interaction with someone on a typical day. People with disabilities like me have challenges with our everyday activities, like accessibility for our wheelchairs, our ability to communicate, transportation options to get places. Some of us struggle with social skills, and most of us have health and medical challenges. Loneliness affects everyone, but is more prevalent among disabled individuals. Some of us feel unable to get out of the house, especially during the COVID pandemic. We couldn't socialize and do things we love to do. This can lead to a feeling of isolation and depression.
So what do we do about that?
One thing I use on a regular basis is technology. Obviously, we are all using technology today, like computers with PowerPoint. I like Zoom. Google Meet or Zoom is a great tool to see the person you are communicating with and allows you to connect with more than one person at the same time. To feel connected, I use Zoom multiple times each week for tele-speech therapy with my university speech clinician. It works great. I have actually been making great gains because I am in my home environment and not in a sterile therapy room. We even meet in the kitchen to cook or bake something together.
Yes, the speech clinician would be in her apartment, she's a college student, and we would plan ahead, so we'd both cook the same thing at the same time, and Brett would be directing us to get it out of the refrigerator, put it in the microwave, and yeah, he got pretty good around the kitchen, that's for sure. But we're gradually, going in again now for our sessions, not doing it from Zoom.
What neat opportunities though that you couldn't do in an office.
I know, yeah, it just worked because it was his environment, so if we did a craft, he could show him the craft and talk about it, he gave him a tour of his apartment, you know, we just did all kinds of interactive things like that, and it just made sense, because it's his world.
I use Google Duo app, also called Google Hangouts, to communicate with my sister, Kelly, in Albany, New York. Gosh, I missed it, girl. It makes me happy to see her face and reaction as we talk. I show my sister crafts that I am making. We can share photos or show each other new clothes. She gave me a tour of her new house, and I showed her the flowers I planted over the summer. Easter Sunday, she helped me do the candy hunt around the room, and we got a group photo by taking a screenshot. So much fun.
Yep, that was fun.
Gigi.
Oh, the reaction for me, who is that?
I met my girlfriend, Annie, at high school. She is a couple years younger than me. When I moved into my apartment, Annie would visit with a few other people. They wanted to see what it was like to live in an apartment. We would watch movies and hang out. Eventually, we discovered that we wanted to spend more and more time together. I asked her to be my girlfriend. She said yes. We have been a couple since October 20th, 2017. I feel very lucky to have an amazing, sweet girlfriend like Annie.
Yep, you guys do a lot of stuff together, don't you?
Yeah.
Want to talk about the why?
So why is friendship so important to me? When I moved into my apartment, it sometimes felt empty and hollow. Having disabilities causes me to be dependent on others for so many things. It is important that people visit my apartment because they want to be with me and not because they are being paid to be here. Friends are individuals that like to do the same things as me, and we have many of the same interests. I find the more places I go and things I do, the more people I meet and connect with. Being a member of the Stevens Point YMCA has provided many opportunities. The Adaptive Fight Ed program brings together many people. I have made many friends bowling. We practice 2 days a week and attend tournaments on weekends. In the spring, I enjoy track and bocce ball in the summer.
Yep, track just started this week, didn't it? Want to talk about your special fitness group?
At the Y, Tuesday and Thursday night is the special fitness and social group. Frequently, we play games and hang out for a few laughs. Some of our favorite games are right, left, center, and Uno. We also meet at locations like Clay Corners to paint pottery or at a restaurant to have a meal together.
Yeah, we don't have Clay Corners anymore, I miss that place. I know what you see.
My family and I made many happy memories during trips to Florida to visit the Disney parks and Universal Studios.
Which one do you want? Let's see here. Right here.
Some of my friends and I like going to monster truck shows. The monster truck show was in Wausau. It was something fun to do. Many of my friends like to meet me at Golden Sands Racetrack between Plover and Rapids on Friday nights for stock car racing. We all sit in the wheelchair section so we can be together.
And you get to go Saturday, I think it's starting, right?
My friends and I like to wear our Packer clothes and cheer for the Packers. We can't go too crazy because my neighbors might get mad. I have a reputation for throwing awesome Super Bowl parties. Still disappointed the Packers didn't go to the Super Bowl this year.
You think this year? No? No hopes? What are you guys doing there? Can you see this?
It is always fun to see a movie in the theater, but lately we have been watching movies at my place. Here we are with 3D glasses. So if I am feeling lonely, I take the lead and invite my friends to do something. Some of my friends do well in large groups, but some of my friends may get anxious. I do one-on-one with them. I ask them what works best. Some of my friends have transportation issues. Most of my friends don't drive and carpool with someone else. Others use a taxi or have a family member drop them off. Sometimes accessibility can be an issue for me. For instance, I am unable to go ice skating or sledding, but I can watch hockey or do other things. It makes me feel good when my friends talk to me instead of my care provider. It can be annoying when people raise their voice around me. I can hear it just fine.
Does that ever happen to you? So Brett's going to talk about some of those fun memories here now.
Fortunately, the Disney parks are accessible and many rides have been modified for wheelchairs. My family and I made many happy memories during trips to Florida to visit the Disney parks and Universal Studios.
Yeah, my parents had a timeshare down there, so we would be able to use that. It was wheelchair accessible too, so it's right by the Disney park, so that was our go-to place for a few years.
Of course, SeaWorld was very special too. I loved the orca and dolphin shows.
Remember going to those? They were fun, huh? I took that picture. How about that for timing?
That is perfect timing.
Yeah, I was pretty proud of that one.
In 2008, Make-A-Wish Wisconsin granted my wish to swim with dolphins. We traveled to Atlantis Resort in the Bahamas for a family vacation.
This is before we knew Brett had a passion for monster truck and NASCAR. We probably would have picked a different wish for him, but back then we didn't know. So his parents decided he would like to swim with dolphins.
You know, Brett, I am incredibly jealous. That
Yeah.
looks amazing.
It really was.
Was it really cool?
Oh,
Yeah.
just the whole Bahamas thing was pretty cool, yeah. Let's see what's next here. Oh, you probably want to tell them this part. That's the wheelchair we would use to go over the sand and goes in the water. You want to tell them what you're doing there?
I got to kiss dolphins, and they taught me hand motions to get the dolphins to do tricks.
And the trainer said, Brett, do you want to swim on the dolphin? So he threw his arm over the dolphin and hung on for about 2 seconds, and then he fell off and was right there to grab. This kid has no fear, I tell you. Mom has fear, but he had no fear.
I would probably be a little nervous. but
Yeah,
that is
really
cool.
cool. So that's what the Atlantis Resort looks like. So here, you want to talk about some of your community advocacy?
Yeah.
All right, he loves talking about this stuff. Tell him what that is.
I am also an advocate for others with special needs. In 2017, I cut the ribbon at the grand opening ceremony of the Kids Are Special Here playground, better known as Cash Playground, at Mead Park in Stevens Point, Wisconsin.
Here's a close-up.
My mom came up with the idea, shared the need for an accessible playground, and helped write grants to raise the money. It took her 4 years to get enough money to build the playground, with ramps that take wheelchairs up 8 feet off the ground, swings with backs, sand play with a raised table, and rubber surfacing that is safer for everyone.
Here's the groundbreaking. Yeah, I exploited Brett and took lots of pictures of him, and we did lots of interviews and just pitched the story. Here's a picture of the sensory gardens that surround the playground. The rubber surfacing.
I love that playground.
It's a lot of fun. More interviews on the radio. And then the plaques that have Brett as the inspiration for the playground. And there's some of the stuff on there. You like the bigger, this one? The swings with the backs. And the sand table with the refillable bucket, so they're constantly refilling the bucket there. And people from wheelchairs can play in the sand. And now you want to talk about the Life Skill Center a little bit?
Yeah.
Mom, and I played a big role in the planning of the Life Skills Center at Stevens Point Area High. The 1970s apartment across the street from Smash had narrow doorways and a tiny kitchen that my wheelchair didn't fit into. The need for an accessible apartment was needed to teach special needs students life skills like cooking, cleaning, finances, and self-care. I got to help with the groundbreaking ceremony and attended a ton of meetings to draw up the plans. Now a standalone building is on Smash campus that students can walk to from the main building. A wonderful addition to the community.
Yeah. That's a good. You want to talk about your future goals? Almost done.
I have accomplished my 3 goals, and people want to know if I have new goals. Yes, of course. I am always working on improving my communication. I like to try new things, stay healthy and fit, advance my relationship with my girlfriend, Annie. Who knows? Perhaps I will get a second job or be a homeowner in the future.
Things to work on. Brett, do people ever stare at you?
Yes, because I am so darn handsome.
Yeah. And Brett's usually staring right back. You know, we were just at a restaurant and I saw a little kid staring over the chair at Brett, and Brett was looking right back at them. It's like they're curious. We expect that. Brett, can your wheelchair go up a step? You want to get up this now?
No, even one stair can keep me out.
Even one stair is like a brick wall to a power wheelchair. And, you know, there's a lot of businesses downtown, and I really respect historical buildings because that's an awesome thing to preserve our history, but it's very frustrating when you have a power wheelchair and you have an 18-inch step before you get into the building. And the store owners are usually very accommodating. Oh, we'll help lift your chair, and it's like, this chair empty is 360 pounds. Then you put 172-pound Brett, and we're not going to be lifting that. No, sorry. Not putting anybody in jeopardy to do that. Finish with your thought?
My life as an adult is going very well. I am happy to be independent and living my best life. My social life is very full and rewarding. My family is always there if I need them. I have a fulfilling job that I can do by myself.
So, do you want to answer any questions on that?
Thank you for your time and attention today. I hope you enjoyed learning all about me. It is fun to share my story, reflect on all my accomplishments. Do you have any questions, or do you want to know more about anything I shared?
Anybody want to ask anything yet?
I do. I would love to know that what was the hardest part of the transition? What was hard with the transition?
For me or him?
Well,
I'm still recovering.
I would say I have a senior this year, so maybe I need that part too. But
You know, I think as you talk to families with special needs, kids, they have no plan to move their child out of their home. They're just not even comfortable with pursuing that at all. And I get that. It's super scary, especially when you have somebody as involved as Brett is, to turn that trust of his care over to other people. And it didn't go well at first, it really didn't. But I'm not gonna live forever. I promised Brett after the car crash, I had immense guilt being the driver of the car and stuff, that we're not gonna have a normal life, but we're gonna have the best life we can. And I promised that I would try to make it as normal as I could for him. And around age 14, at the IEP meetings, they started asking the questions: what does Brett like to do? What would he like to do for a career? And I'm like, I don't even know what I wanna do when I grow up. How am I supposed to figure out what my son's gonna do? But it got me asking questions, and I started asking Brett, do you want to live with mom and dad, or do you want your own apartment? And he chose an apartment.
my
I'm
daughter's
just-
doing the same
I'm
thing right
just
now.
kidding, but you know,
Yeah.
I don't even know if he knew what that meant at the time. I really didn't. And then, do you want to get married? No, he was only 14 or high school, but he wanted a girlfriend. Oh, no problem, right? Go find your girlfriend. And getting a job, you know, and all of those things have been a challenge, and it's not like it happened in a day. You know, every part of it took a lot of work, a lot of calls, a lot of questions, a lot of tours, a lot of deep thinking and praying and talking it through, and yeah, every step was a challenge. I'm not going to lie, none of it was easy, and but you do it. You know, you just try to make life as best you can, and I think the rewards have outweighed the challenges, and we'll just keep moving forward, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What resources were the most helpful to you? Like, where did you go to get the most resources that were helpful?
You know, for idea, we did a remodel on our house, and I think that some of the best ideas I got were, I just begged to look at, see what other people had done in the community, and nobody had done quite the level of what we had to do to accommodate Brett, but my best answers came when I asked him, what would you do different if you did this over? That's where I got my best ideas. And they say, oh, I wish I would have done this, because you know, now I see after living with this, that's where I got my best ideas from. And I always use that going forward too. When we're doing Cash Playground, I'd ask the people that had done similar parks in other communities, what would you do different? And they usually gave me, you know, in hindsight, it's always better than looking forward. So those are really where I got my best ideas.
And then did you reach out to different programs in the community as far as
Oh,
funding and
everything.
things go, or was it more through the
I've always
state,
stuck with
or-
Inclusa. They've been very helpful to us. They understand Brett and the level, and they've been very, very supportive of us. I know not everybody has a good experience with their funding source in that, but we really have been. But I think we give clear, defined needs, and we can justify our reasons, and they've been very supportive of that. So have a clear picture. Dream big, people. That's what I say. Dream big. Pretend you're going to Disney. What would you put in Disney? Make that your life. You know, what do you want for your life to look like? You know.
So Brett dreamed big of a girlfriend and an apartment and all of those things, and you had clear expectations and needs to
Yeah.
help make that happen, so that
Yeah,
helped.
the girlfriend thing kind of just fell into place. I wasn't quite ready for that either. No, I'm just kidding. But Annie's a delightful young lady. She was visiting at Brett's house, and I was hearing from other staff that Brett's saying, or Annie's telling people that Brett's her boyfriend. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. So one night I was covering a shift, and Annie happened to be there, and we were having some pizza and watching a movie, and I turned to Annie and said, so Annie, I hear you and Brett are more than just friends. And she says, well, I want him to be my boyfriend, but I'm old-fashioned, I want him to ask. And Brett's head snaps and looks at her, and he uses his vocalization, and it sounded like, do you want to be my girlfriend, in Brett talk? And she got pink cheeks, and she did something like this. She said, yes, Brett. And they made it Facebook official, and that's 5 years ago, and it's still going strong, right? Yeah.
Nothing like having mom there when you're asking your girlfriend.
Yeah, I kind of
Right.
prompted that one along, but we got her done, so. But you know, I remember shortly after that, we went to one of the Tim Tebow Night to Shines, and Annie walked around and introduced Brett as her boyfriend. And just to see the self-worth and the feelings that they had, the pride of, I have a boyfriend, I have a girlfriend. I can't take, you know, all the friends, you know, they struggle with that. Hey, wait a minute, I want a boyfriend, I want a girlfriend now too, but they're used to being a couple now, but that doesn't happen every day in their world, you know, and that's a big deal. So, yeah, that was a pretty good accomplishment. You kind of made that one happen, didn't you? Yeah, I think you had some ideas about that, and I didn't know about it. You just needed that open door, right? All right, so, yeah, anything else? Those are good
Yeah.
questions.
I've got one more, but Jennifer, do you have any questions? You're still there?
I still hear what you asked some of mine already. I was curious about, you know, the idea, where do you get your ideas and any challenges. I guess given the pandemic, and I know that there is, and you talked about this a little bit in your presentation, but there is a shortage of care workers. And so how have you, I know you said you can increase pay a little bit more. Can you explain that a little bit more of what
Yeah.
that looks like?
So when Inclusa hired companies, and I'm not gonna name any of the companies, that's neither here or there, so I don't even think one of them's in business anymore. They had so many levels of management, a regional manager, a district manager, a program manager, a house manager, and so every scale got a little bit more pay. And so guess what? The actual staff that was there got maybe $10 an hour. And so you can probably guess what we drew for $10 an hour. They weren't even CNAs or anything, they're just people off the street, which I'm fine with. They don't have to be a CNA, I can train people, but it was really hard. They couldn't keep them. They were just flipping over. And when you have that high of a turnover, it doesn't do well for Brett's health. They never get to know him well enough to communicate with him, to know what his needs are, if there's something wrong or right going on. And so that was a big struggle. And then that company only lasted a short time, and we went with a different one. And that one worked a little better. They paid a little bit more, and they hired me as a trainer, so I would train staff, teach them how to communicate with Brett. So we did pretty well with them for a few years. And then they kind of got bombarded and asked to manage a bunch of houses, and I just don't think that they were ready to deal with that many. They just hit them too fast, and so that kind of went away. And at the time, my job ended, and we were ready to go self-directed, or IRIS program. You might recognize that term better. And so we decided to go self-managing it because I'm the manager. I'm it. I'm your district manager, program manager. You know, I'm all of it. So they pay me as the manager, and I also work a shift. I usually am with Brett from 7 to 3. And I already told you the fun happens when mom leaves, but you know, that's good. I'm glad. That's what I want to happen. Who wants to have their mom hanging around when their friends are there, right? That's just not normal. So yeah, it's been working out much better. So I can offer my staff, you know, more like $15 an hour, and that draws. And now it's kind of a crisis again because that doesn't seem like too much to people anymore, as much since
It was.
yeah, it was for a while. So we might have to have a conversation about that again because I do struggle. I use every source I can think of: Facebook. I use Indeed. I use the university website, the Mid-State Technical School website, word of mouth, just trying to get it out there. And we've been lucky. We keep finding people, but the struggle is real for sure. So that was Brett's portion. I have a home. How much time do we have left?
Got about 20 minutes.
Okay, just raise your hand up when it starts getting
Yeah.
close. I'll go through as
Can
much
I
as
ask Brett a question
Oh,
real quick?
absolutely.
Sorry. Okay, so you told us who your favorite NASCAR driver was. I was wondering who your favorite monster truck was.
Oh, how would you tell her that? John, what page would you go to for the monster truck stuff? Reach. Brett's still a little weak. We were in the hospital last week, so I'm giving him a little armistice today.
Tom Mates, driver of Max D, is very nice.
That's his favorite.
He signed my Max D truck.
Good job, Brett. Yeah, Tom Mentz drives Maximum Destruction, and he's met him a bunch of times when we've gone to monster truck shows, haven't we?
You can have a signed one.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, then.
Yeah, we're big time fans. Big
Apparently.
time, yeah. Yeah, we don't mess around, do we?
Does Gravedigger still drive, Brett?
Yeah.
Does?
So that's Dennis Anderson. He's retired just recently because he said, you know a little bit about monster trucks. We might have to talk here. But Dennis Anderson left behind a lot of children, and so Ryan and Adam both drive, and his daughter Kirsten, and now his son Wesley just turned 18, and he's kicking his brothers and sisters' butts. He's doing really good. So we could talk NASCAR monster truck all day. Couldn't we, Brett? Sometimes we do. But that brings up a good point, and something I'm going to stress. You know, you asked me to share what educators need to know. Get to know your students. I mean, they're just such a treasure of wonderful things to learn about each and every one of your students. And, you know, for Brett to be a communicator, you saw him do kind of a pre-planned talk here today, but he has many pages where he has to, you know, come up with, find the answer himself or put words together to create sentences, and those are all things, a work in progress. But this would just be a computer sitting in front of him unless he had a motivation to use this. It's nothing, it's just a piece of technology. Until I found out what Brett wanted to talk about, and back then he was 4, he wanted to watch Barney and Blue's Clues and blow bubbles and make cake or whatever. So I had to find what is gonna motivate him to talk. We can't use it as an education tool to teach him numbers and eventually we can, but it is his communication device, people. And what did you want to talk about when you were 4 years old? Did you want to talk about the states of Wisconsin or United States or whatever? No, you want to talk about play and fun and what you want to do. So get to know what's going to make them want to use it and talk and make it part of them. It's their voice, right?
Yeah.
Because you probably wouldn't like if I put Barbies and Polly Pockets and stuff in there when you're little, would you? No. Monster trucks?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So, yeah, anyway, my name is Corinne Everman. I'm Brett's mom, and now I'm his guardian, and I wear lots of hats in his life, but it's my pleasure to do so. I find that all the jobs I've had, this is the most rewarding to me. I love my son and want him to have the best life as we possibly can. But I never do any talk without talking about my husband, Ron. Been married to that guy for a long time. It'll be 34 years, and we dated for 4 years, so we've got a lot of history together. And I couldn't do what I do if I didn't have him and his support. He's the rock in the family. He's the one that gets up every day and goes to work and doesn't complain about it. And he comes home and he provides the insurance and he makes sure we have the finances and the funds and the support we need to do what we gotta do. So thank you, Rob, and love you for always being there. So we had a daughter, Kaylee. She's 30 now. And then Brett came along 3 years later. He's born on February 24th, 1995, a whopping 9 pounds, 6 ounces. 2 weeks early because they're watching me because I know, yeah, you were big. Keely came out big, so they're watching me, and yeah, I'm super mom, 9'6", 2 weeks early. So Apgars were great, healthy, everything was great. Got to meet his sister and his dad. We're a little tired, but we're good. Everybody's healthy. Brett met all those Apgar studies, or all levels, or whatever they call them. He was swinging, he was walking, he was talking. I was worried he was a slow talker because he wasn't jibber-jabbering like his older sister. But we had a lot of speech therapists in our lives at the time, and they said, write down all the words you know. And at 15, 16 months, you already had 50 words, and I think you need 50 by age 2, so we're really good. But, you know, you don't compare your kids, people. Don't do that. Because, you know, you're just going to be setting yourself up for worry. But, yeah, very, very fun, active, mischievous young little boy, and we just love him to death. And we were busy. I was a stay-at-home mom at the time. But we were never home. The stay-at-mom was never at home. We did library one day, preschool for Kaylee a couple days of the week. But our favorite day of the week was playgroup because the moms would get together and chat and talk to other grown-ups while the kids played. So we really missed it. And January 15th of 1997 was a day like any other week. It was Wednesday, playgroup day. And it was snowing, so I left early, put Brett in his car seat. Kaylee was just in a seatbelt because she was over the age back then. The rules have changed since then. And we're going down Connie Trung J. I lost control on icy roads. I overcorrected to stay on the road, and I side impacted with an oncoming pickup truck. Brett was sitting at the point of contact, and in that second, our lives changed forever. Boom, boom, boom. So Kaylee and I were both hurt. Brett was transferred first because he was most injured. Kaylee and I were transferred together in the second ambulance, and both kids had brain injuries and were transferred to Children's Hospital in Marshfield. I stayed here, ruptures, bleeding, seatbelt injuries. Brett, traumatic brain injury, multiple fractures of his skull, asphyxiation because he wasn't breathing, and both of his arms were broken. So he was in a coma, of course. It's not like on TV, people. You don't wake up and live ever happily ever after. And if you've been in a coma, the longer in a coma, the more damage that's been done to your brain. So we were 16 days on a respirator. They hadn't set his arms. Day 10, he was strong enough for them to set the arms. 4 times my husband was told, say goodbye to your son. Say goodbye. But there was a guardian angel looking over this young man, and for some reason, he's still here with us. He's a miracle. For all that he's been through, he shouldn't have survived that crash. So coma is, there's different levels of coma. They're numbered, I don't know them. But at the time of discharge, he was considered in a light coma. That means his eyes were open, he slept and was awake like normal. But I include this picture because you can kind of see Kayla's kissing him, but there's really no reaction. The eyes are just kind of glazed over. He wasn't quite fully awake then. It took a long time, probably a year before he finally woke up. So when he turned 18, we finally got an adult neurologist, and we said, would you like to see what a brain injury looks like? And he said, yeah, because I hadn't seen CAT scans since he was a young man. So here is his skull. So remember, he had multiple fractures of the skull. 95% of the time, your skull closes, but Brett was the 5%. So at 6 months post-crash, can you point into your head? Yep, right up there. Boom. Yep. They took rib bones and they reconstructed his skull. So my husband and I found ourselves signing papers. Yes, we understand there might be more brain damage. Yes, we understand our son might die, but we didn't have a choice. His brain was starting to come out of the skull, so we had to get that closed up. This is the CAT scan. Notice it looks a little different than a normal CAT scan, doesn't it? That black matter shouldn't be there, and there should be more definitions or worm-looking structures. So the fact that this boy is alive and doing what he can do is a miracle. I remember, you know, we were followed by the same neurologist for many years, and we go into appointments, and she would just shake her head. I'm like, "What? What's wrong?" She said, "He shouldn't be doing what he's doing." I said, "Well, why not?" She said, "You don't know how much brain damage he had." But nobody told me not to do stuff, so I just did it. We stimulated, we took him places, we never hit him at home. We went to church, we took him to restaurants, we took him to therapy every day of the week, so we just kept pushing him. I might have been exhausted, but I was gonna make sure, it's gonna fix this problem, you know, I was gonna fix it. Brett already talked about his transition. I'm skipping a lot of parts because I know I don't have a long time here. So I remember being really scared. I mean, oh my gosh, it was one thing dealing with him when he's in my home, but we have a future here. What's that going to look like? So please help me define what this future is going to look like. So I did research. You were asking what I did. I went to a conference on transitioning to adults with disabilities, and the guy talked about rigor, relevance, and relationship, and I'm like, oh boy, I'm in the wrong. I wanted to learn about finding housing. I want to find about job. This is not what I signed up for. But I was polite, and I sat there and I listened to him. He didn't spend much time on rigor or relevance. He spent a lot of time on relationships. And I just like, oh, this is such a waste of my time. But on the drive home, I started to really think about that. When I thought back to when I went to school, I didn't say, oh gosh, that was the best science class. No, I talked about all the trouble I got into in the hallway and going to prom and going to the fun stuff. We don't talk about school, right? So it really made me start thinking, are we doing the right thing? Am I really, you know, the IP community is focusing on all this like academic stuff. Is this really what I should be focusing on? So I started to really start focusing on relationships. And guess what? Life got a lot more fun because we found out that SPASH already had a community partners group in place. Thank you, Andrea Marty. So he was all of a sudden doing coffee shops with, these were kids that are in regular education that volunteered to be part of this. Yeah, you know who those people are. Are those good memories for you?
Yeah.
Heck yeah, those are all your friends from school, aren't they?
Yeah.
So, you know, they had a little coffee shop, so we got to work with some of these people to raise money. Then they would go up to Wausau Christmas shopping, pizza parties. We are still friends with some of the connections he made at SPASH doing that. They also had a group just for the special ed kids. This was great too because if there was a dance coming up, they would all go to eat together. So they didn't have to worry about having a date or having somebody to go hang out with. They went as a group, and it was just wonderful. Tailgate parties before the games, sitting at the parades together. But we also always try to include regular ed, you know, non-people in the special ed classroom. We always wanted to cross that over. I think this was after our ice cream party you had downtown at Sweeps, right?
Yeah.
And Brett got to be on prom court. How cool is that? His friend Andrew was the king, and look at how handsome those boys look. So much fun. And that's the great thing about SPASH. They're very progressive and very open to recognizing everybody. Here's one of their before prom dinners. And then we got hooked up with a peer mentor, and that was a program that's still going on. So Brett had a friend. I think we set up. Yeah. These are great memories for him. Sorry, he's really excited to see these pictures. So we had a couple of them. They usually stayed with us for a few years, and I think we usually reserve Friday night, and the purpose of that person was specifically to get Brett out socializing. So they weren't a trained care provider, so Brett always had to have a care provider, which was a respite care provider, and the peer mentor, so it was always a party wherever they went. And sometimes my daughter would go, and they'd bring their boyfriends. I mean, it was just so cool. It just sort of became just really a natural thing that happened, and people wanted to join them, so the parties just kept getting bigger and bigger. But they did everything from bowling. They would take them to prom. They would take them to the UWSP events and movies, and here they are on at was that at UWSP?
Yeah.
Like some dance on campus, because Brett was older then, you know, and so that was his peer group. And then we also got him involved in special sports. Brett talked about that a little bit too, but That's a great activity. A couple times a week. He's got plans to do something fun, whether it's bowling or track. That started this week. Did you have fun at track?
Yeah.
Good to see your friends, right?
Uh,
And we have a modification for Brett so he can even do bocce ball. Oh, yeah, it might have started out as a rain gutter, but we got a more professional looking one after time. You know, you use what you got. And then SPASH also had the JET program, job education training. And so they would do different jobs around SPASH, but then they would take them out into the community. And Brett did towel folding and toy washing at the Y. They try to find things that were specific to him, so he got to wash school buses. You liked doing that, yeah. You got to hold the hose all by yourself, right?
Yeah.
And you got to work at Dairy Queen. And
Yeah.
people kept buying gift cards for him because he wasn't allowed to eat the ice cream while at work. And so they would buy him gift cards and stuff. So yeah, he would come home. People would see him working and they just would touch their hearts, so they would buy gift cards.
So then you got to take your family out, right?
Yeah.
I didn't get to go, did you? How come I didn't get to go?
Oh, sorry, Brett.
That's okay. It's all about the friends. He worked at North Haven with cleaning and stuff, and they were all really great experiences for him. But you know, he didn't really get to. What we didn't like about it is he always had to have somebody help. I mean, he could push the chair, but he couldn't stack the chair. He could push the broom to get the dirt, but he couldn't put it in the dustpan. So we wanted to find a job where Brett was doing the job. There's a section here about turning 18 here, because we were talking about educators, and I just want you to know, parents have to go through a lot when their kids turn 18. We had to petition the courts to become legal guardians, go to the court, take a picture with the judge. Kind of a cool day, but you know, once they turn 18, even as parents of regular kids, you can't make doctor appointments for them anymore. You can't do any of that stuff. And so by becoming his guardian, I can do that. So Brett can't vote, get married, or have surgery without my permission. Having said that, we do everything we can to let Brett make those decisions for himself and just help him through that. Then we applied for SSI income, so Brett gets money each month, and that's a job in itself because they wanted to know where that money's going. And then we set up a special needs trust. This is something you need an attorney for, and if anybody has any questions about that, they can reach out to me and ask about it, but I highly recommend setting up a trust. And then you have to become a representative payee, so you can manage their money. And then we talked about applying with DWD, Department of Workforce Development. And once you're in there, they assign you a job coach, they help you find jobs. I gotta say, I did a lot of the work myself, but it was nice to having them. And if Brett needs any special accommodations at his job, they would help pay for that. And another thing I thought would be interesting for education people to know is that UW Stout, has a Vocation Rehabilitation Institute. Have you heard of this?
Mm-hmm.
So you can go in there and they actually have a room with like little different tables, and they would sit you down to do the task to see if you can do, maybe it's putting a nut on a bolt, maybe it's matching things. So each table has a different task to see what level of skill that person has. So it can really help identify what kind of job that person might be able to do. They also evaluate the communication skills and things like that too. So the DW paid for us to go and do that. I think we did it actually a couple of times because a few years had passed. We wanted to see if anything had changed. So yeah, it's really an interesting, they don't let the parents in there. Dang, I want to see what happened, but you know, you get the report after what their recommendations are and stuff. So a good thing to tap into if you need to know what your student's capable of doing or might be able to do. Also, we did. There's a name for it. I think it was at one time the STAR program, and they kind of worked through the process of trying to find the job. And one of the things is I was asked to do a relationship map, so I had to come up with everybody in Brett's life because it's not what you know, it's who you know kind of thing. So then we had a big meeting where we invited a bunch of people, and people sat down and brainstormed, what kind of job could Brett do? Do you know anybody that works there? Could you help us get our foot in the door? That's how you find people a job. So it's very time consuming, but well worth it. I included Brett's resume because I'm really proud of this. I worked really hard, and it's like a resume you've never seen before. That's you. Okay, so here's his visual resume, and I had help with this too. But we really sat down. What are his interests? What does he like to do? So when you look at this, it's colorful, it's friendly, it's lively, and hopefully it'll give you a sense of who my son is if you're the employer. his education and job education experience, some of his work experience, and lots of pictures. Some of the other jobs he's tried that weren't a great fit, but were fun to try. Some of his volunteerism, more about him. He's a multimodal communicator. He uses gestures and pointing, strong yes and no, facial expression and eye gaze. His mobility is his wheelchair. His ideal job would allow him to use his communication and people skills. He's eager to demonstrate his adaptability, positive attitude, and focus. Sounds good, doesn't it? Wouldn't you
Sounds like
hire
a
him?
job application or resume to me.
Then we got references or quotes from people he's worked with in the past, and then some ideas of things we might think he might be able to do. There he is with one of his job coach. And then, like Brett said, we went on campus. We didn't just say, okay, we're gonna make him a tour guide. We went on a tour of campus, and we thought maybe he'd be a good fit in the mailroom. But again, with the weather and stuff, pulling a cart, and we just didn't know if that would be a great with snow and weather and things like that. But then we found out about the museum, and mostly they would have students as volunteers, and we said, you need to pay Brett to do that. So here I'm sitting at this table convincing them that, yeah, my son can give a tour. I had no idea if Brett could do a tour. I had no idea, but I was determined to make it happen for him. You know? So I would follow people giving their volunteer tours, writing things down. I took pictures of each diorama and then researched every taxidermied animal so Brett could tell a story. And by gosh, it worked, and he's been given tours ever since. And yeah, so what do I know? So you asked me to share some suggestions and things for future educators, and I'm not an educator, and I thought it was presuming a lot for me to tell people how to do their job. So I'll tell you what I know. Life is better with special people in your life. I challenge each of you to befriend somebody with special needs. You'll be rewarded 100 times over. Your life will be so fulfilled by having special people in your life, because Brett's just the tip of the iceberg for me. Through him, I met so many of his friends, and they've all brought so much happiness to our life. Embrace their differences. Some of them talk my ear off, and I can only handle it for an hour or two, and that's fine. Others, I could just sit with them all day and never get tired of them. But they all have something different and unique and special about them. Focus on what they can do and not do. I can't tell you how many IEP meetings I sat on, and they would say first, oh, we love your son, he's value to our class, we enjoy him, and then they would tell me all the things he can't do, or he hasn't learned yet. And my husband would get so mad. He said, it's not that he can't do it, it's because you haven't taught him yet. And I love that line. It's like, why can't I think of that in those situations? Dang nabbit, But really, I'm very well aware of what my son can and cannot do. But let's focus on what he can do. Let's think of how he can use that in a functional way in his life. Friendship is everything. We really had some amazing experiences. Brett's like the cool guy. He's got the apartment. He's the grown-up with the cool house, No parents or anything are allowed. And for his friends to get invited over for a social opportunity, their family comes up to and says, you can't believe how this is touching us, that you invited our son or daughter. They're grown-ups, obviously, but still, this is like the first friendship or first time they've been invited to somebody's house. Think about that. They didn't get invited to somebody's house when they were in school. Never. And this is their first time, so that friendship to them is everything. Help discover their uniqueness and what they can do with it, because they all have it. I promise you they do. You just got to find it. And find a way to include them. There's so many times they wanted to exclude Brett, especially from field trips and stuff. I know, it's work. It's a job, loading them in and out of a vehicle, paying for the vehicle to take them, having staff to take care of them. It's worth it. He needs the same opportunities as everybody else. So that's our story, and I'm sticking to it, but I'd be very happy to try to answer some of your questions if you have any, or want to know more. This is the condensed version. I can talk for hours. I really can. I just didn't want to go into too many things. I was trying to focus in on the school stuff. And we've had really outstanding teachers. We've had some that have been not so great. I felt like he was in a glorified babysitting situation at school, which is not a good thing. But most of them have been wonderful, and they really did some things I never expected or thought of doing myself. So I'm thankful to that, for that.